hope the background isn't too loud. Let me know if it's too loud. Hi! Hi, hey, it's Mimzy May, haunted house mouse streamer and polite pumpkin eater, here to give you creepy, cozy company. For today, I will be finishing off the pumpkin recipes that I collected, and then we'll be starting on a new Goosebumps book. But hello, let me say my hellos before I get started. I see an emerald and an Itel, a Finn, a D, and a Zeta Rickaby. Hello, hello. And yes, remember to stay fed and hydrated. Make sure you're getting your movement in. Hi, hey, hello. It is Friday. Welcome. You all made it through the week. I am very proud of you. Well done. Now you're into the weekend, and thank you for spending the end of the week with me. So hopefully this will kickstart a very restful weekend for you. Let's see. On Sunday, I will be playing A Little to the Left. Seeing Stars DLC. And then I will be finishing up, hopefully, Pokemon Scarlet sometime next week, as well as a couple other things. I don't really know yet. I've really been on a short indie game kick lately, so we might stick with that. Might stick with picking a couple shorter indie games, maybe some visual novels and such. I do want to do an ASMR stream, reading the side stories of the DDLC, the Doki Literature Club. So that might be something that I end up doing next week or the week after, depending on how I'm feeling. Okay, let me go ahead and get started by switching over to my ASMR screen and also trying to remember where in the world I was on my recipe thing. Okay. Is that really where I was? No, this is what I started with. Okay, hang on. Oh, we're gonna have to click through chat. I think it might be easier this way. Don't look. It's gonna be a surprise. Don't look. Stop looking. Stop looking, chat. Chat, stop looking. Chat, close your eyes. Stop it. I can feel you looking. You're looking. I know you're looking. Stop looking. Is this no? Eyes are closed. How are you typing that then? Okay, now that we're close. Don't stop looking. Stop looking. You can't look yet. Hang on. Okay, you all can look now. I'm sorry. Okie dokie, artichoke. Thank you for your patience. You used to have a carp named Mimzy? How cool. I've never been a fish before. If I ever have the opportunity to be a fish, I would love to be a koi fish in a koi pond. So I love koi fish. Alright. So, let us see where we are. We are starting off strong and we're starting off savory. We're going with a pumpkin quinoa soup. I know it's really hot for a lot of us these days, but fall is approaching. So we want to be prepared with some soups. Some soups that are also really hearty, because quinoa is such a good alternative for rice, as it has more protein in it than typical rice. recipe. Pumpkin quinoa soup is bursting with nutrition from pumpkin, which is full of vitamin A, C, and E, as well as fiber and potassium. I added quinoa to the soup recipe for a healthy dose of plant-based protein and a hearty, smooth texture. It definitely makes this soup feel more like a meal versus a side dish and gives it more filling fiber. I love very thick and creamy soups, like clam chowders and broccoli cheddar soup. I really like creamy soups because I love eating them with bread, like sourdough. In a sourdough bowl, there's nothing quite like it. Behold, look at how creamy that looks. I like that there is a note here that says you can add a half to 1 cup vegetable broth to thin it out when you make it or the next day with leftovers. It is a little scary to start adding liquid in soups and in porridges and stuff. But once you start doing it, you're going to start learning the texture and consistency that you like in those types of meals. For example, congee. I love congee, but I love it on the thicker side. But if I'm storing it for later, it tends to get a lot thicker than I'd like it to. So I usually add a little bit of water or a little bit of chicken broth to help make it just a touch less, less thick. Make it just like a little bit more thinner. I like it at an oatmeal consistency. But yeah. I also love the fact that the author and chef of this recipe has a little pumpkin vessel for the pumpkin quinoa soup. I mean, look at this. How cute is this? Oh, I want some so bad. Let's see. The leftovers taste even better the next day, and it makes for a great lunch with a side salad. Also love making a soup bowl with it, which is basically salmon and greens on top of the soup. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. That sounds so good. Salmon is one of my favorite fish. So adding salmon to any recipe is guaranteed for me to usually try it. You can freeze the soup and pull out a portion on a chilly fall night. And the addition of coconut milk or yogurt adds a creaminess and brightens up the whole wholesome pumpkin flavor. I've currently been really into this channel. This woman that I follow on YouTube, she has a lot of these videos. She's primarily a cooking blogger and YouTuber. And she has a lot of these videos about knowing how to buy in bulk and how to store food so it lasts longer, because she lives on her own and is always cooking, so she likes buying these bulk products, but if she's not feeling it, she doesn't want it to go to waste. So I've been learning a lot about how to best freeze foods and store foods, and different kinds of methods, containers, the timing of everything. So it's been really insightful, and I've been really digging that content. It's also just nice to listen to and get ideas for new recipes to have on hand. because it's so nice to be able to meal prep. But if you don't have the time to, or you end up not craving that anymore for whatever reason. I know I'm very finicky with my cravings. It's nice to have a backup meal, and also nice to be able to know how to store foods that you end up not using. A lot of food goes to waste, so I try not to waste food as much as possible. Okay, we haven't gotten into the actual recipe yet, so how about we do that? Alright, ingredients for pumpkin quinoa soup: pumpkin puree, vegetable broth, quinoa, coconut milk, or plain Greek yogurt, cinnamon, nutmeg, onion, garlic, red pepper flakes, pumpkin seeds, Parmesan cheese, which is optional, but you are watching a mouse VTuber. Cheese is not optional. Cheese is never optional. And salt and pepper. Oh, I love that they... You can also put it in a pumpkin itself. Look at all the pumpkins. Okay, let's get into the measurements. What do we have here? 4 tablespoons of olive oil divided, 3 cans of pumpkin puree, 1 cup of quinoa, 1 yellow onion diced, 4 large or 6 medium garlic cloves minced, half a teaspoon of salt, ground cinnamon, ground nutmeg, a dash of cayenne pepper, red pepper flakes. Ooh, it has a bit of a spice to it. Freshly ground black pepper, 4 cups vegetable broth, half a cup full-fat coconut milk or plain full-fat yogurt, a 4th cup of green pumpkin seeds, 2 tablespoons of Parmesan cheese for topping. Again, Parmesan cheese, not optional. No cheese is optional here. Alright. Now onto the actual cooking. We're going to be heating 3 tablespoons of olive oil in a large Dutch oven or heavy bottom pot over medium heat. Once heated, add the onion, garlic, and salt to the skillet. Cook, stirring occasionally until onion is translucent, about 8 to 10 minutes. In the meantime, boil the water for the quinoa. If it's specifically telling you to use a Dutch oven or a heavy bottom pot, it is because it needs to be, the thicker the pot, the slower it's going to cook, and the more evenly it's going to cook if you do it correctly. Because that thickness of the pot slows down the cooking process, so it makes it cook a lot more evenly. So that is very important. If you use a very thin pot for a recipe that requires a thick pot, cooking it at the same temperature and at the same time may lead to it burning. Number 2. Add the pumpkin, cinnamon, nutmeg, cloves, cayenne pepper, and red pepper flakes and a few twists of freshly ground black pepper. Then pour the broth, bringing the mixture to a boil, then reduce heat and simmer for 15 minutes to give the flavors time to marinate. It's funny. Give the flavors time to get together, essentially to marry, because as things cook, especially together, they kind of intertwine, or they change flavor profiles just a little bit. So you know how regular bread tastes different than toasted bread? It's that same kind of food science. So, a lot of the time when it comes to simmering the food for a period of time after boiling it, it's not so it's cooked a lot of the time. It's more to really settle in the flavors. So that simmering portion is very important. The flavors and the texture. Mm. While the soup is cooking, cook the quinoa according to the package directions and toast the pepitas, the pumpkin seeds, over medium-low heat, stirring frequently until fragrant and golden, making sure they are not burning on the bottom. You'll know things are starting to burn at the bottom if they're sticking to the bottom of the pot. That's why you kind of want to stir frequently. Not even kind of. You want to stir frequently to make sure it doesn't stick. The moment it's starting to stick at the bottom of your pot is the moment that it's burning. So you're just going to want to taste it and keep an eye out on it. Once the pumpkin mixture is done cooking, stir in the coconut milk or yogurt. Remove the soup from heat and let it cool slightly. You can use an immersion blender to blend the soup in the pot. I use my Vitamix to blend the soup in batches to get it super creamy. Add about 1.5 cups soup at a time to your blender, not all at once. Puree until smooth and transfer the soup into another bowl or pot in the meantime. Repeat with the remaining batches. Put the soup back into the original soup pot and add the quinoa, stirring on low heat until everything is combined and warm. I feel like people underutilize their blenders, especially when it comes to soups. If you're a texture person, blenders are going to be your best friends because you are able to change the texture and consistency of so many things, especially sauces and soups. So, if you really like smooth consistencies and the soup that you have made is a little bit more on the chunkier side, just throw it in a blender and you should get the consistency that you're looking for. And that is the soup. This next one is really cute. Pumpkin-shaped gnocchi. Made with a sage brown butter sauce. Also, pumpkin puree, potato, ricotta, and Parmesan cheese. You cannot believe how cute these are. Look at that. They're so cute. I adore things that are fun looking. I love it so much. I love gnocchi a lot too. So this is like perfect recipe for me that I think I'm going to look into doing in the fall. If you're not shaping your gnocchi like pumpkins this time of year, you're not doing it right. Correct, chef. This pumpkin gnocchi recipe is perfectly shaped like mini pumpkins, making it a little extra fun and festive for the season. Individual sprigs of fresh rosemary are used as the pumpkin stems, placed on top of these plump little gnocchis that are shaped like pumpkins. Topped with a brown butter, sage sauce, and extra freshly grated Parmesan cheese, pumpkin gnocchi makes for a cozy and delicious meal that's fun to enjoy for the season. Fresh sage complements the flavor of pumpkin so well and fills your home with the aroma of the season like a toast in the pan. Pumpkin puree adds more fiber and vitamins and minerals like vitamin A, C, and E, giving this gnocchi more nutrition per bite. The versatility of pumpkin in both sweet and savory recipes is definitely one of the things I love about it most. I am excited to know more about this. I'm particularly interested in the brown butter sage sauce. Butter in itself is a very flavorful ingredient. Brown butter elevates it even more, giving it a bit more sweetness and warmth than it usually has. And then adding sage to it though, wow, that's a whole other flavor. I imagine that the flavor is going to be a lot more complex, which is really exciting. Look at them, they're so cute. Okay, let's see what ingredients we need. Alright. Pumpkin puree, whole milk ricotta cheese, grated Parmesan cheese, egg, salt, cinnamon, all-purpose flour, fresh rosemary, fresh sage, butter, salt and pepper, salt and freshly cracked black pepper. Equipment and utensils: mixing bowl, saute pan, large pot, and toothpick to help with the pumpkin shape. Alright. I love all the pictures that they added to this recipe. It looks like a little pumpkin patch. It makes me really happy. Alright, as for measurements, 1 cup of pumpkin puree, half a cup of whole milk ricotta cheese, half a cup of grated Parmesan cheese, 1 egg, 1 teaspoon of salt, a 1/4 teaspoon of cinnamon, 2 1/4 cup of all-purpose flour, a sprig of rosemary, and then for the sage brown butter sauce, 3 tablespoons of butter, 10 to 12 fresh sage leaves, a 1/4 teaspoon of salt, and freshly cracked black pepper to taste. Now the instructions. Add pumpkin puree, ricotta cheese, Parmesan cheese, egg, salt, and cinnamon to a large bowl. Gently stir together with a wooden spoon. Add flour 1 cup at a time, continuing to mix until the dough forms. Flour a surface and use your hands to gently knead the dough. Dough should be smooth and not overly sticky. Add a 1/4 cup more flour at a time if needed to reach the consistency. If you are working with dough that is on the stickier side and a recipe calls for you to flour the surface, don't just put the flour on the surface, make sure to spread it around and level it a bit more, because you're basically making sure that the dough is not touching the surface but the flour itself. It's also very important for you to also flour your hands as well. Don't be afraid to really get the flour on your hands because it will also help with the stickiness. And you're going to want to work with your hands quicker, so it does not stay on your hands to a certain period of time where it warms up and ends up getting stickier. Next, we're going to cut the dough in 4 equal parts. Start with 1 part and roll it out so it's about 2 inches thick. Cut into pillow shapes. For the pumpkin shape, gently turn one of your gnocchi pillows on its side and use your palm to lightly press down. Use your fingers to make sure it's perfectly round. Place one piece of rosemary in the center of the pumpkin stem and use a toothpick to gently press down around outside to get the lines of a pumpkin. Repeat with remaining dough. Boil a large pot of salted water. Gently drop pumpkin gnocchi into the water one by one. When the gnocchi floats, use a slotted spoon to take them out of the water. The slotted spoon, or the spoon with holes in it, or just with any kind of holes in it, is to make sure that there's no excess water and moisture. And it also takes it off the heat a lot faster than if you were using a regular spoon and trying to get the liquid off of it by tilting it to the side, because you're still introducing a lot of heat to it. Make the brown butter sage sauce by adding butter to a sauté pan. As soon as the butter foams up, add the sage, salt, and pepper. Once the butter turns slightly golden brown, remove from heat. Pour oven gnocchi and top with extra grated Parmesan cheese. Serve immediately and enjoy. I think I'm gonna want to try this. It's a lot more hands-on and more complex than the other recipes, but I love the fact that someone took the time to shape it and essentially play with the food. You always hear not to play with your food, and then you have so many adult chefs who are experimenting with how to transform food and create what they imagine in their heads or something that they think will work well. And I just think it's funny that there still is so much whimsy and that adults tend to break the rules that they implement themselves for children. So, because especially chefs, they have to feel their food and smell their food to know that it's a right texture, or if it's the consistency of it. So dough and things, they're always making cross sections and cutting up their food. So I think it is a little funny that we grow up not being told to not play with our food when a lot of the professionals end up doing it for their jobs, and it's actually an important aspect of their job. Okay, next we have pumpkin spice chia pudding. I love chia pudding, and I never thought about putting pumpkin spice in it, which is really, really exciting. I love finding new ways to use pumpkin spice. Okay. Oh, the chef likes theirs a little thicker, so do I. So they made it with yogurt instead of coconut milk. That's really smart. Let's see. Oh, you look so pretty. What is that topped with? Apples? Apples and pumpkin spice. Oh my. The combination sauteing for the topping of the chia seeds pudding will have your whole house smelling like fall and totally put you in the mood to enjoy this delicious fall treat. One of my favorite things about baking, especially things that have fruits, especially apples or cinnamon or nutmeg, is how much warmth it brings to the house, from not only a temperature wise and a feeling wise, but from a smell wise. I love the smell of baking. It is my favorite smell in the whole world. Let's see. Of course, the pumpkin puree has its typical vitamin A, C, and E, fiber, and potassium, but it's also has nutritional benefits because of the chia seeds. It's packed with protein and fiber from the chia seeds, as well as the apples and the pumpkin seeds. I love chia seeds. I used to have chia seed pudding a lot. I like making it overnight and eating it with sliced banana and honey. It is like a very quick and light meal that I like having it when it's warm. So usually during the summertime, into fall. But it's kind of neat having like a fall chia pudding recipe, and I definitely think that this is something that I will also try to make. I hope I get the chance to make all of these. Usually the holiday season is a very busy season for me, which makes me a little sad, but I am hoping to at least get some of these easy recipes under my belt, my apron belt. Alright. Oops. Okay. Ingredients for the pumpkin spice chia pudding: chia seeds, almond milk, pumpkin puree, plain vanilla or pumpkin yogurt. I did not know pumpkin yogurt existed. I hope to find pumpkin yogurt this year. Apples, pumpkin pie spice, vanilla extract, pumpkin seeds, and coconut oil. Give me one quick second. Sorry. Alright. For those of you who are on YouTube, I will be ending the YouTube live stream and putting up the VOD a little later because my frames are dropping pretty badly, and so far it seems that ending the dual streaming is what helps the most. So I will have that VOD up as soon as I can. And thank you. I'm sorry. I'm not sure why my Wi-Fi has been really finicky and my frames have been really finicky lately. Okay. Hopefully that helps. Thank you for the head pats. Alright. So, ingredient measurements: have a 1/4 cup of chia seeds, a 1/2 cup plain vanilla or pumpkin yogurt, 1/2 cup of almond milk, 2 tablespoons of maple syrup, a 1/4 cup of pumpkin puree, 1.5 teaspoons of pumpkin pie spice, a 1/2 teaspoon of vanilla extract, and for the apple topping, a 1/4 cup of diced apples. The chef specifically made it in Honeycrisp apples. I love Fuji apples. A tablespoon of coconut oil and 1 to 2 teaspoons of pumpkin pie spice. And then instructions: mix all the chia pudding ingredients together in a bowl until everything is well combined. Cover and place in the fridge to firm up for at least 2 hours or overnight. Meanwhile, saute the diced apples in the coconut oil and pumpkin pie spice. Top pudding with apples and add a little extra sprinkle of pumpkin pie spice when you're ready to eat. Super simple, super simple, and you can make big batches of it. Portion it out to have a cute little fall meal or snack, depending on how you portion it out. Something I also like adding to a lot of my chia puddings and puddings in general and juices and such are extra supplements or vitamins, powdered. So if you are someone who needs that, I think this is a great way to implement it. Because I noticed putting it in juices or taking a bunch of pills isn't fun. So it's really nice to be able to get a lot of your supplemental nutritional needs through fun little treats like this, especially during the season. I know when the cold weather hits, I have a lot of a harder time getting all of my nutrients in. So having supplements and vitamins in a festive way makes it just a little bit more fun. Okay, we are back on, well, I suppose chia seed pudding is pretty sweet, but we're back to the super sweet. We've got pumpkin spice cookies, and this only requires 2 ingredients, and it's a more of a cake-like texture, which is fascinating. So the fact that it only requires 2 ingredients is hopefully a sign that I can make it this season. A packet of spice cake mix and 1 can of solid packed pumpkin or pumpkin puree. Oh, gather all the ingredients, preheat oven to 350 degrees, grease the cookie sheet, stir together the cake mix and pumpkin in a large bowl until well blended. Drop rounded tablespoons full of dough 2 inches apart on the prepared cookie sheets. I'm not sure if I mentioned, but the distance of like the 2 inches between cookies is so it doesn't stick together, for one. So you'll have individual cookies. But another reason why we do that is so it has enough room to cook as well, because if it is getting stuck and doesn't have the room to expand the way that it's meant to, and it's like stopped from expanding, it's going to change the texture of it and make it a lot more dense than you were originally going to hope for. And then we're gonna bake in the preheated oven until centers are set and edges feel firm, 18 to 20 minutes. When baking, always go for the lower number first, and then add the minutes as they go. Even a couple minutes, especially for baked goods, is a very long time. So start with on the lower end. So do 18 minutes. I even do a minute less than that, so I would start at 17 minutes just to test out and see how it is, because every oven is different, every pan is different, all the ingredients are different. There's a lot of factors you have to put in, and while a lot of recipes try to mitigate those differences, which is why there is like specific types of baking dishes and such that are specified materials and a range of time is because many things will play a factor into the end result of the recipe. So, when it comes to cooking, always be as conservative as possible when it comes to the timing and the measurement of things, because it'll be a lot easier to add time as well as add ingredients. This is a Mimzy tip. Alright, allow cookies to cool in the baking sheet for 5 minutes before transferring to a wire rack to cool completely. I definitely think I'm gonna be making these this year. I don't think I've ever tried like a spice cake. A cake mix. I'm sure I've tried spice cake into some fall pastry, but I really do enjoy a good cake box mix. I think it is such a neat thing that was created, and it is very accessible, and it tastes just as great. So I definitely want to try that. I'm actually really excited and I kind of want to try it already, but I have to be patient. At least a little bit. We are going back to the savory with pumpkin turkey meatballs with zucchini noodles. I love zucchini noodles. I love zucchini in general. I've never heard of pumpkin turkey meatballs though. A delicious and cozy meal that will warm you up, keep you full. Gluten-free, dairy-free, and simple. Flavors really complement each other, takes less than 30 minutes to make, and you could freeze the pumpkin meatballs too. Okay. Adds the typical vitamins and fiber to the meal, but the puree also helps moisten the meatballs so they don't dry out when you bake them. Okay, they actually look really good. Okay, I might have to try this. I'm curious what sauce they use. They will use the marinara sauce, the red sauce, or white sauce. Let's see. For this recipe, you'll need 1 pound of lean ground turkey, pumpkin puree, almond flour, 1 egg, homemade or store-bought marinara sauce. Okay, so it's a red sauce. Sage, red pepper flakes, Italian seasonings, garlic, and salt and pepper. Okay, so it is a red sauce. I like my pastas really saucy, so I think perhaps the red will show a lot more if I were to make this. I also think a creamy white sauce, like a mushroom sauce, would also be a very excellent combination with pumpkin turkey meatballs and zucchini noodles. So once I try the original recipe, I think I might want to try it also with a white sauce. Alright. The measurements for the ingredients for the meatballs: 1¼ pound of lean ground turkey, a ½ cup of pumpkin puree. Oh, we're using pumpkin puree specifically too. I don't know why I thought that it was gonna be like that'll also help with the consistency because I know people like to add a lot of vegetables in their meatballs, like little chunks of carrots and such. That was the one thing I was a little worried about, but pumpkin puree. I can see how the moisture really would add to it and make it not dry out. A fourth cup of almond flour, 1 large egg, 2 garlic cloves minced. That's not a lot of garlic. 2 teaspoons of Italian seasoning, 1 teaspoon of ground sage, 1 teaspoon of thyme, a half teaspoon crushed red pepper, and salt and pepper to taste. Now for the zucchini noodles, 2 zucchini spiraled. It's a little tool called there's a handheld spiraler that you put the zucchini in, crank it, and it comes out in little strips. You could also hand cut them, but it can be a pain, especially if you don't make it thin enough. So, whatever your preference is when it comes to texture and what you are able to do, because I know chopping vegetables into very thin and even small amounts can be very difficult for people who have like issues with their hands and such. So whatever makes it the most accessible to you. When in the kitchen, there are going to be a lot of different gadgets that people are going to probably make fun of, but if a funny little gadget that seems quote-unquote lazy helps you be able to do what you need to do in the kitchen or make it easier on your hands, absolutely invest in it. Even if it seems like a gimmick, if it helps, it helps. Do not compromise your health, your physical health in the kitchen if you don't need to. And if it helps you, it's not overconsumption as well. You deserve good food, and you deserve to have it in a way that's accessible. So don't feel bad if you need a lot of fancy little gadgets, because I need a lot of fancy little gadgets. This is a reminder. I am very, if you haven't noticed by now, I am very much an advocate when it comes to accessibility, especially when it comes to disability specifically. And I am all for using the tools that you need to make it easier for you to just live a normal life and to live an easier life. Also, hey, welcome to the pumpkin patch. Boa, hi. Welcome. I'm glad you're able to make it. We were talking about accessibility in cooking. Alright, very rarely. For the zucchini noodles, a half cup of marinara sauce and optional additions, sauteed spinach, hemp seeds nutritional use. Sauteed spinach adds more color to the recipe. Hemp seeds adds more fiber, and nutritional yeast gives it that cheesy flavor that people are looking for without the actual dairy. So if you're a vegan or extremely lactose intolerant or just not a big fan of dairy products at the moment, nutritional yeast is going to be your go-to when it comes to making things healthier in the way that it will give extra nutrients. Not that it is better, but it is very pack-filled with nutrients, and it also gives it that cheesy flavor. And here at the pumpkin patch, we are always looking for cheese. Alright, for the instructions. For preheating the oven to 425 degrees, lining a baking sheet with parchment paper, and spraying with olive oil cooking spray. Mix all of the ingredients in a bowl until combined. Spray a cookie scoop or an ice cream scoop with baking spray or olive oil spray and use that to scoop the meatballs into balls. Scoop the meat into balls onto the baking sheet lined with parchment paper. Use your hands to round them out if needed. Bake for 17 minutes. I would recommend using olive oil spray instead of baking spray because baking spray, a lot of the typical baking sprays that you would use to coat cookie sheets and other baking sheets has a bit of a sweetness to it for whatever reason. So I would recommend spraying with olive oil spray. Unless you don't mind that little bit of sweetness. It's not overpowering. If baking spray is the only thing you have, then absolutely you can use the baking spray. But if you have the options, I would recommend the olive oil spray. While the meatballs are cooking, prepare the zucchini noodles. Spiralize the zucchini and place the noodles on a skillet with the marinara sauce until warm and combine. Add spinach if desired. So, notice, because the noodles are veggies and not made out of like typical materials, we are not cooking the noodles. We are only warming them to a comfortable temperature, as well as making sure the marinara sauce is introduced in, as well as any other additional ingredients. So we're not cooking it for long. And with a lot of these vegan recipes, you're going to find that a lot of it just requires a little bit of heat. We're not really cooking anything, but instead warming it up to a comfortable temperature for the palate. Because if you warm the zucchini noodles, because of how thinly they're sliced, if you warm them up way too much, they're going to fall apart and be very mushy, like typical veggies that you would overcook. And we still want a little bit of a chew to them as they're acting as our noodles and as our alternative to the carbohydrates and such, and gluten and everything, depending on what you're trying to replace. Okay, another savory one, pumpkin white bean chicken chili. It's made with warm spices like cumin, cinnamon, and oregano. I know it is a little scary when they add sugar or cinnamon to a savory dish, like a sweeter spice. A lot of it is used to complement the other spices and make them pop out a lot more. Especially something like cinnamon, which is on the warmer side, you're going to find that you will not taste cinnamon and sweetness, but you're going to find the warmth that it brings to the dish. Okay. Oh, we got a lot of ingredients for this one. Let's see. We've got olive oil, garlic, onion, jalapeno, chicken broth, pumpkin puree, canned white beans, frozen corn, chicken, green chilies, cumin, oregano, cinnamon, paprika, salt, pepper, fresh cilantro, avocado for serving, so it's something that is added on top, for just that extra bit of flavor and creaminess. And also plain Greek yogurt for serving for the same reason. The plain Greek yogurt will add a bit of more of a tang to it, and the avocado will help balance out the tang as well as any other particularly strong flavors within the chili. As for the measurements, we have 1.5 pounds of chicken breast, 4 tablespoons of olive oil divided, 1 medium onion sliced, 3 cloves of garlic minced, 1 jalapeno chopped and extra to the side for serving, 1 teaspoon cumin, oregano, paprika, a 1/4 teaspoon cayenne pepper, cinnamon, black pepper, and salt, 5 cups chicken broth, 1 cup pumpkin puree, 1 can pumpkin puree, 1 can white beans, 1 cup green chilies, fresh or frozen corn, cilantro, and some to the side for serving, plain Greek yogurt to serve, and sliced avocado to serve. If you are someone who has a difficult time cooking and keeping fresh ingredients, frozen vegetables are going to be your friend. Frozen vegetables and frozen fruit do not knock those. They basically have the same nutrients, and as long as you cook them right and prepare them right, they can taste fresh. It does take a little bit of time to figure out how to make the frozen vegetables to your palate if you're a little pickier, but do not knock those, especially if it's something that you need that will make your life easier. And it's a very excellent way to not waste foods. So don't be afraid of buying frozen things. I know it might seem scary, and also don't be afraid of looking into how to store things. So if you have vegetables that you know you're not going to use, try figuring out a way to store them, because that really helps with food waste and also makes you more in the know of how to interact with food and such. I feel like there'll be a lot of these little skills and little knowledge bits that have been lost over time because of how hands-off we are these days when it comes to a lot of things. So we have all of the information in our hands, but a lot of the time it can get very overwhelming. And because of this, people don't tend to look things up and keep note of it or do it because there is, the option to do it later. So if something interests you or you think about doing something, I do recommend just doing it and not waiting until the last minute, because that is how you start getting used to not relying on just having information at your disposal at all times, and also being a lot more proactive when it comes to learning these essential life skills. So if that information is no longer accessible for whatever reason due to XYZ, or if you want to be more informed in conversations and not looking things up all the time, it is very important to just do those things as well as keep notes in them. I have tons of notebooks with tons of facts and thoughts and such. I am always writing things down, and that is like one of the best pieces of advice I can give anyone. Okay, instructions. Heat 2 tablespoons of olive oil over medium-high heat in a pot. Add the chicken and saute for about 3 to 5 minutes, then remove and set aside. In the pot, Heat the remaining 2 tablespoons of olive oil over medium heat. Add onion, garlic, and jalapeno. Cook until softened. Softened. It shouldn't be mushy, but you should be able to cut a piece of it with like a spoon, like a spoon or a spatula or whatever you're working with. It shouldn't turn to mush, because that means you overcooked it. That is beyond softened. It's practically melted. So just enough that you're able to cut through it pretty easily. Add cumin, oregano, paprika, cayenne pepper, cinnamon, and salt and peppers. Reduce heat to medium and let simmer. Add the chicken stock, pumpkin puree, beans, and chilies in the bowl of a stand mixer, or using 2 forks, shred the chicken. When shredded, add in the chicken, corn, and cilantro. Stir to combine. Add to a bowl and serve. Top with sliced avocado, jalapeno, Greek yogurt, and cilantro. And ta-da! I like that there's a little bit of spice. Oh, this would pair so well with sourdough bread or just baked bread in general. Like in a bread bowl, like a sourdough bread bowl. Oh, that'd be phenomenal. We are back with sweetness. With pumpkin whoopie pies. So, for the dough, we're going to need 2 cups of packed brown sugar, 1 cup of vegetable oil, 1.5 cups solid pack pumpkin puree, 2 large eggs, 3 cups of all-purpose flour, 1.5 tablespoons of ground cinnamon, half tablespoon of ground ginger, half tablespoon of ground cloves, 1 teaspoon of salt, 1 teaspoon baking powder, 1 teaspoon baking soda, and vanilla extract. And for the filling, we're using 1 egg white, 2 tablespoons of milk, 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract, 2 cups of confectioner's sugar divided, and 3 to 3/4 cup shortening. We're preheating the oven to 350 degrees. And this is what they're going to look like. They look like macarons. I love macarons. There was a point in time where I was baking a lot, and I wanted to work towards trying to bake macarons, because macarons are notoriously very difficult to bake, even as a professional. And I really wanted to try to make them. So I wonder if I can make. I'll probably try to make it in the future when I have a lot more time to bake. Because I love macarons so much. It is definitely a luxury for me to have. Because I'm quite picky with my macarons. I've had very, very good ones. And, so I am very picky, so I can't just get like store-bought ones or things, and usually like a lot of the local ones that I find don't really measure up to the ones that I've had. But yeah, but sorry, I just got a notification. Excuse me. But yes, macarons. I love them. I love them a lot. There's this macaron shop that I'm very fond of because they do character macarons, which really are some of my my favorite because they're flavorful and also incredibly detailed. I need to put it in the server. I also need to put the recipes in the server. Professional? I'm a professional at making my boss regret hiring me. Well, if you're still employed, they can't regret it that much. I don't think you can say that until you're fired. Because they don't regret you that much, right? Right, that's the logic, I think. Boa, you can sleep, it's okay. Get your sleep. Everyone has been sleeping awfully. Everyone has been sleeping awfully, so make sure to get your sleep. He wants to fire me, but he just can't. That must mean you're good at your job then. Hopefully. Unless you have well, what is it called when, tenure. I know a lot of professors in universities can't be fired for the same reason. Thank you so much for the follow. Welcome to the pumpkin patch. I hope you don't get fired. Unless you want to be fired, then I hope you get fired. Alright. So we are mixing the dry ingredients and folding it into the wet ingredients until into the wet ingredients, and then we're mixing to combine. So we're folding it in to incorporate it a lot easier before we're fully mixing to combine everything to make sure that everything is even and such. Fire me from a cannon? Not be allowed to use the air cannon at work. Oh no. I would prefer if my mod wasn't fired from a cannon, but I'm also sorry you're not allowed to use the air cannon. If the pumpkin patch gets an air cannon, then I am happy that we have someone who knows how to operate one, or at least can pretend to know how to operate one. Okay. Step 3. Drop dough by heaping teaspoons under the prepared baking sheets. Because we're making them into cookies, and those cookies are going to be what? It's going to be our sandwiches. Bake in the preheated oven until cookies spring back when lightly touched, 10 to 12 minutes. Cook on baking sheets briefly before transferring to wire racks to cool completely when you make the filling. To make the whoopie pie filling, beat egg white in a bowl and mix in milk and vanilla, then 1 cup confectioner's sugar. Mix well, then beat in shortening and remaining 1 cup confectioner's sugar. Beat until light and fluffy. Assemble once cookies are cool. Make sandwiches from 2 cookies filled with the whoopie pie filling. I also really want to try this because I like the oatmeal ones. I like the ones with oatmeal cookies and the cream inside. Those ones are super duper good. Left me unsupervised with air cannon and some lemons. I love lemons. Especially in lemonade. So hungry you should get ice cream? Have you considered having an actual meal first, Boa? If you haven't had dinner yet, it's gonna spoil your dinner. Which means, because a lot of the time when people have sweet things, they don't want to eat anything afterward. So, eating dessert first usually discourage people from eating something savory or spicy afterward. Is what I found to, at least, is how I take spoiling your dinner. So, don't spoil your dinner. All I've been seeing you eat is ice cream. I'm concerned about your health. Please have a vegetable. And maybe a protein. Please. And thank you. It is not polite to not get your nutritional stuff. We have to... You're all listening to a VTuber. Feed recipes. Yes, you have to eat dinner. Everyone has to eat. Get all the food groups in. Good gracious. What am I gonna do with you, child? You do, yes. Eating. Everyone needs to be eating and staying hydrated and getting movement in and being kind to yourselves. Those are the rules here in the pumpkin patch amidst others. Zoe, hi, hey. Welcome in. I'm just letting everyone know that they have to eat. So, you have to take care of yourselves. I am but a mouse. Next is another savory dish and another pasta dish. Literally just woke up 10 minutes ago. Well, good morning. I hope you managed to sleep well, but I'm happy you slept regardless. Make sure to get a nice breakfast and get yourself hydrated this morning to start your day. I love M&Ms. I don't think M&Ms are part of the main food group though, so you'll need to eat a vegetable. I am sending all the vegetables everyone's way. Pumpkin, spinach, and walnut spaghetti. Alright, let's go ahead and skip to the ingredients. Oh, I don't know what happened there. Oh well. Ingredients. So, 200 grams or 7 ounces of spaghetti. You can also use gluten-free. When I use gluten-free pastas, it's usually chickpea pasta because it provides more nutrients and protein. There are also veggie blends as well when it comes to rice pasta. 4 milliliters, 3 tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil plus more if desired. 2 to 3 garlic cloves finely diced. And also, if you want to be someone who cooks often and who cooks many dishes, you are going to want to invest in a kitchen scale. There are very small ones that you can just tuck away, and they tend to be fairly inexpensive. And that is because you can get a lot more precise of a measurement, and a lot of the more complex recipes will be measured out in grams rather than typical cups and such. So, and of course, it also really helps if you are transferring conversions and everything. If you're using different kinds of recipes from different places and such. Alright. 450 grams or 2 cups of cubed butternut squash or pumpkin. Butternut squash is going to be the thing that Bunny, hello my darling girl. Hi. Hello. Hi. Hey. don't know me, it's Mimzy May, haunted house mouse streamer and polite pumpkin eater, here to give you creepy cozy company. What were you up to, bunny? Hello, it is always so good to see you. I hope you had a good stream. If you and whoever came in with you need to raid and run, that is totally okay. Make sure to drink water, eat a good meal, and be kind to yourselves, and also get some movement in. Very, very well done. Very well done. With stream, no doubt. I've seen you grow so much, Bunny. Little Bunny has grown. Also seen your new layout and overlays and such, and you're really stepping it up. I'm very proud of you. You were doing Stardew Valley. Oh, I love that game so much. I hope you're having fun with it. I'm not sure if you've ever played it before, but I hope you've been having fun. I have to know who you're romancing though. Talking about Avatar? The blue ones or the elemental ones? But I love Stardew. Oh, that's great. I want to play Stardew on the channel. Elemental, okay. Good. I love Avatar. Such a great show. Beautiful show. My first crush was Zuko, and I adore that show so much. Harvey, the doctor. Oh, you're a Harvey girly? Really? I am a Sebastian girly through and through. I love Sebastian. But I also love Shane because I love that he hates us at first, and then I just get him to love me. Same with Haley. Crushing on Zuko is so real. And also Shane has all the chickens. And I love chickens. I have so many Stardew chicken plushes. They call you crazy for liking Shane? It's okay, baby girl. I got you. It's okay. Don't worry about it. I understand you. I understand you. I know what you like. We're yandere friendly around here. We have to be, cause Emery is a yandere. So we gotta be. We're Luxheart managed here, so. Well, I hope you had a good time. Thank you for sharing your community with me. Again, you are free to read and run, but if you plan to stick around and such, we're just finishing up these pumpkin recipes before getting into reading some Goosebumps. So, kick back, relax, but thank you for being here. I really appreciate it. And hi, welcome to the pumpkin patch. Thank you so much for the follow. Kisses for you too, I suppose. Just all the kisses for everyone. The kisses smell like pumpkin spice. Okay, where were we? Oh, butternut squash versus pumpkin. I found that butternut squash has a richer and more savory flavor compared to pumpkin. Pumpkin is going to give you that sweetness. And it's also going to give you more creaminess as well. 100 grams or 3.5 ounces of spinach, a half to 1 teaspoon of chili flakes, depending on level of heat and your preference. I like mine very, very spicy. Half a lemon, zest and juice, salt and pepper to taste, 300 grams or 1 ounces of walnuts, finely chopped. now for the actual cooking or method part of it. We are coating the butternut squash or the pumpkin in 1 tablespoon of olive oil and seasoning with salt. Preferably after you coat it in olive oil, as the salt will adhere to it a lot better. Because if you put the salt first and then the olive oil, or if you put in the salt while you're doing the olive oil and things are not fully coated, it's going to be very difficult for it to have perfect coverage of every piece. We're baking in a 220 Celsius or 430 Fahrenheit oven for about 25 to 30 minutes until butternut squash turns soft and gets caramelized. So you should start to see it bubble like a creme brulee, or if you are toasting something and baking something, that's going to give it the sweetness and even more sweetness to it. Give it a good stir halfway through baking time. Heat up 2 tablespoons of olive oil in a pan. Fry off garlic gently on a low-medium heat, stirring frequently so it doesn't burn. Add chili flakes and cook for another minute or 2, stirring frequently. Cook spaghetti for a minute shorter than you normally would. And that is for texture. I haven't read the full recipe yet, but typically, if you're cooking something 1 minute shorter, it's usually for a specific texture that the dish requires, or because if you're incorporating very hot ingredients or and the like, it will continue to cook afterward, and so taking away that minute will help preserve a lot of the texture that would otherwise be lost if it was at the typical temperature it was when it was cooked, like fully cooked. Mash half the butternut squash with a fork or potato masher. You can also use a food processor or blender for a smoother texture. Put both mashed and whole butternut squash chunks into a pan with chili and garlic. Add drained pasta and washed spinach into the pan. Incorporate them well into the pumpkin. Taste and season with pepper, a squeeze of lemon juice, and additional salt and chili if needed. You may also want to use some extra olive oil, but that is optional. And then we're serving immediately with chopped walnuts and lemon zest on top. If you are not a fan of a very strong flavor, you should skip the lemon zest. Lemon zest is actually a very, very, very powerful ingredient if you put a little too much, and it is also typically the thing that people mess up and make too bitter or don't check beforehand, and it makes the dish bitter. So if you're not familiar with lemon zest, I would recommend skipping it until you are. Okay, on to another savory dish. We are making savory pumpkin and spinach oatcakes. Let's see. They are perfect on top of salads or eaten like a patty in a bun. These pumpkin spinach oatcakes with turmeric pack lots of flavor and good nutrition thanks to oats, spinach, and pumpkin puree. Turmeric contains powerful anti-inflammatory properties. Oh, look at these. If you are not very familiar with a lot of flavors, I do recommend having, because turmeric is a very strong flavor, and if you're not familiar with it, the color and the taste can be a little bit daunting. Whenever you're going to be trying, if you're trying to be more experimental with food, the best way to do it, if you're doing it slowly and you want the most success, is by first figuring out what spices you are not familiar with. Spices are usually what adds the flavor to any meal, so you will more likely be able to eat a lot more and feel more comfortable eating a lot more and a variety of foods if you are familiar with the spices, and it will give you a better idea of the flavor profile. So especially spices that you will typically not find easily or on hand, such as salt and pepper, so things like turmeric or 5-spice powder. Look out for recipes that have that with foods that you are already familiar with. So if you really love chicken, for instance, or you really love ground beef, or if you are a big fan of seasoning your veggies and having it over a bed of rice, like in a stir fry, that is when you should start. How you should start experimenting with flavors is through spices and something that you're comfortable with, and little batches at a time as well. But it is not, you should always try to do research, look things up, see which ones you think will match you, because there are going to be descriptions of how these spices are come across. So if they're going to be a lot milder, if they're going to have a little bit of heat to it, if it's more savory, if it's more umami, those type of things. So you know what you're getting into. I get made fun of a lot for doing a lot of research beforehand when it comes to these types of things, but knowledge truly is power, and in order to prevent a lot of waste and have a higher success rate when it comes to eating a variety of foods and making a variety of foods, or just anything in general, having that extra knowledge will also stave off a lot of the nervous energy that you may be bringing into the experience that will also influence how you experience these things and how the outcome is. So, I am very pro research all the time. I am very pro looking up every little thing when trying something new, even if it's something as simple as a spice. And then you'll always have that knowledge, and you'll also be able to take that knowledge of how it tastes into how you can use it for cooking, and also be able to help other people if they're not quite sure about specific meals and restaurants. If you can pick out those flavors, you'll have a better understanding of how things can taste. So it's a really cool little power having that type of knowledge, and expanding it in various ways. I have a feeling she'd like this one. I need to post the recipes. Aito, please remind me to post the recipes in the server. Pretty please. I forgot to do it last time. I do have insider knowledge on flavors. Anything that I'm interested in, I really like looking up a lot of information from it and trying to implement it as much as possible in my day-to-day life to really solidify what I've learned. So even if it's something like really silly, writing help or a certain way to clean something, I usually try to implement it as quickly as possible, or regurgitate it to someone else as quickly as possible in order to retain the knowledge a lot better. Alright, so ingredients for this, we have oat flour and pumpkin puree, old-fashioned oats, lemon juice, ground mustard, so that's the spice and not the condiment, garlic powder, black pepper, turmeric, egg, and spinach. As for the measurements, half cup oat flour, 1 cup of old-fashioned oats, a teaspoon of ground mustard, a half teaspoon of garlic powder, a 4th teaspoon of turmeric, a teaspoon of black pepper, a 4th teaspoon of salt, a 3rd cup of pumpkin puree, 1 large egg lightly beaten, 2 teaspoons of olive oil, and 1 cup spinach. And for the instructions, in a small bowl, mix together the oat flour, oats, ground mustard, garlic powder, turmeric, black pepper, and salt. In a separate bowl, whisk together the egg, pumpkin puree, lemon juice, and lemon juice. Combine the egg mixture with the oat mixture and mix together. Heat a saucepan over low heat and 1 teaspoon of olive oil and saute the spinach until lightly wilted. Remove from heat and fold the spinach into the oat mixture. Pack the oat mixture into a third cup measuring cup. Heat a saute pan on medium-low heat and add the remaining olive oil. Scoop the patty out of the 1/3 measuring cup and onto the pan to heat. Flipping so that both sides get golden brown. Remove from heat and enjoy. I like this one too. Okay, I think we are on the last recipe. Wowee! And this one is a very interesting one. We are ending on a savory one. And they are seeded pumpkin and feta muffins. If you know me, you know how I feel about feta. I love feta cheese. It is one of my favorite cheeses, and I've been eating it a lot in pastas and such. So this is really cool. They do look delicious, just like you. Got them. If it don't get better than feta, correct? Alright, so savory muffins packed with spinach, feta, and Parmesan cheese, black pepper, mustard, and sunflower seeds. I assume the mustard is not the condiment. And again, mustard seed. Okay. Oh goodness, just look at how good these are. Oh, if there's anything I love, it is savory muffins, like breakfast muffins, like with egg, like really fluffy eggs and such. I love savory pastries very, very much, especially for breakfast. So these look like a dream. Okay. Let's get to the actual recipe here. Alright. The recipe calls for 2 cups of flour. There are a couple different flour combinations you might explore. You can use unbleached all-purpose flour, or you can use equal parts all-purpose flour and spelt flour, wheat pastry flour, and all-purpose flour, or and with a lot of these flours, especially like the wheat pastry flour, which is going to be on the denser side, you might need to add an extra splash of milk. I wouldn't recommend unless you are very confident and very advanced in cooking to explore flour combinations. Just there are different ways that you can change the texture of a pastry that don't involve switching out the flours, because it can be very difficult to get the texture right, and you will have higher success tweaking the recipe by adding a few things or taking away a few things rather than switching things out entirely. Okay, for ingredients specifically, we are doing 1 tablespoon unsalted butter, 2 tablespoons extra virgin olive oil, 2 cups 9 ounces or 255 grams of pumpkin or butternut squash, half-inch cubes, salt and pepper to taste, 1 large handful of baby spinach chopped, 2 tablespoons chopped parsley or cilantro, 1/4 cup of sunflower seed kernels, 3/4 cups or 30 grams of freshly grated Parmesan, 100 grams or half a cup of cubed feta, 1 tablespoon whole grain mustard, and 2 large eggs slightly beaten, 3/4 cup, 180 milliliters of milk, 2 cups of flour, and 4 teaspoons of baking powder, and a teaspoon of fine grained sea salt. And finally, to make these, we are preheating the oven to 450. Oh, I lied, that was very hot. 405 degrees Fahrenheit, not 450. Please don't burn them. 200 Celsius, with the rack in the top third. Typically, you are safe keeping your pastries or food of any kind that you are baking right in the middle of the oven. If the recipe requires you to change the position of where it sits in your oven, do so, because the position of where it is will affect cook time. So the position of where it is what the cook time it's determined of the cook time. So if it's like 15 minutes on the top rack, if you put it at the bottom rack, it is not guaranteed that it will cook in 15 minutes, or not guaranteed that it will not burn in 15 minutes, or even in the middle rack. So please be sure, there are these little things in the recipes that people don't think are important, but the little details are what matters and affect the outcome overall. It is very important to pay attention to these little details. Now, of course, you don't have to get bogged down by them, but the more that you cook and do things, the more you know what you are able to ignore, I suppose, or able to get away with. When you're first starting out, try to follow the recipes to a T. And you will learn. It will take some time, but you will learn. It is about staying proactive and hands-on with stuff like this. Not even just cooking in general, but like whatever you decide to do. It is important to try to do things by the book at first, or with very, very little before trying to go about things your own way and try to diverge in any way, even if you aren't quite sure about it. It is important, yes, to take risks and to experiment and all, but please make sure that you have a good foundation to do so. Okay. Use the butter to grease a 12-hole muffin pan and set aside. Alternately, use paper liners. Sprinkle the olive oil and some salt and pepper over the squash. Toss well and turn onto a baking sheet or roasting pan. Arrange in a single layer and bake for 15 to 25 minutes or until cooked through entirely. Set aside to cool. You can do this step a couple days in advance and refrigerate the squash until you're ready to use it. Transfer 2/3 of the squash to a large mixing bowl along with the spinach, parsley, and sunflower seeds, as well as the Parmesan 2/3 of the feta and all of the mustard. Gently fold together. In a separate bowl, beat the eggs and milk together and add to the squash mix. Sift the flour and baking powder into the squash mix. Top with the salt and a generous dose of freshly ground black pepper and fold together just until the batter comes together. Be careful not to overmix. Spoon the mixture into the prepared pan, filling each hole 3/4 full. Top each muffin with a bit of the remaining squash and feta. See photo above. Bake for 15 to 20 minutes or until the tops and sides of the muffins are golden and the muffins have set up completely. Let cool for a couple minutes, then turn out onto a cooling rack. I like these muffins cooled a bit, served just warmer than room temperature. And that is all of the recipes. That is 124 pages of recipes that I have collected for all of you. Of all kinds, I try to make sure to have a good variety of recipes. But yes, thank you again for everyone who helped me reach that sub-reward goal. This is really fun. I didn't think that I would have such a blast doing it, and I also didn't think it would take me this long to do it, but I suppose I overdid it with collecting recipes. I think what also didn't help is that I did have a lot of extra commentary when it came to cooking advice and tips and such. So, I think I'm going to take a few minutes of a break so I can fully transition into doing my reading. We are going to be reading Goosebumps, and we are doing Welcome to Dead House next. So I'm going to take a few minutes of a break, so please be sure to use this time to drink water, to grab a snack, and do some stretches, and I will be right back. This is your warning now. If you are actively listening, to maybe turn down your volume a bit, because I'm not sure how loud my background music is compared to me. And I didn't think to mute it beforehand, so okay, I will try to make it lower as I switch it, but I shall be right back, so please stay if you'd like. I grabbed a blanket, so I hope you all grabbed whatever you needed to. Let's get started with this book. I'm not sure how far we'll get. My goal is to hopefully at least do another hour or so. But let us get started. Reading Goosebumps, welcome to Ted House. Alright, Chapter 1. Josh and I hated our new house. Sure, it was big. It looked like a mansion compared to our old house. It was a tall, red brick house with a sloping black roof and rows of windows framed by black shutters. It's so dark, I thought, studying it from the street. The whole house was covered in darkness, as if it were hiding in the shadows of the gnarled old trees that bent over it. It was the middle of July, but dead brown leaves blanketed the front yard. Our sneakers crunched over them as we trudged up the gravel driveway. Tall weeds poked up everywhere through the dead leaves. Big clumps of weeds had completely overgrown an old flower bed beside the front porch. This house was creepy, I thought, unhappily. Josh must have been thinking the same thing. Looking up at the old house, we both groaned loudly. Mr. Dawes, the friendly young man from the local real estate agency, stopped near the front walk and turned around. Is everything okay? He asked, staring first at Josh, then at me, with his crinkly blue eyes. Josh and Amanda aren't happy about moving, Dad explained, tucking his shirt tail in. Dad is a little overweight, and his shirts always seem to be coming untucked. It's hard for kids, my mother added, smiling at Mr. Dawes, her hand shoved into her jean pockets as she continued up to the front door. You know, leaving all of their friends behind, moving to a strange new place. Strange is right, Josh said, shaking his head. His house is gross. Mr. Dawes chuckled. It's an old house, that's for sure, he said, patting Josh on the shoulder. It just needs some work, Josh. Dad said, smiling at Mr. Dawes. No one has lived in it for a while, so it'll take some time fixing up. Look how big it is, Mom added, smoothing back her straight black hair and smiling at Josh. We'll have room for a den and maybe a rec room too. You'd like that, wouldn't you, Amanda? I shrugged. A cold breeze made me shiver. It was actually a beautiful, hot summer day, but the closer we got to the house, the colder I felt. I guessed it was because all the tall old trees. I was wearing white tennis shorts and a sleeveless blue t-shirt. It had been hot in the car, but now I was freezing. Maybe it'll be warmer in the house, I thought. How old are they? Mr. Dawes asked Mom, stepping onto the front porch. Amanda's 12, Mom answered, and Josh turned 11 last month. They look so much alike. Mr. Dawes told Mom. I couldn't decide if that was a compliment or not. I guess it's true. Josh and I are both tall and thin and have curly brown hair like Dad's and dark brown eyes. Everyone says we have serious faces. I really want to go home, Josh said, his voice cracking. I hate this place. My brother is the most impatient kid in the world, and when he makes up his mind about something, that's it. He's a little spoiled. A least, I think so. Whenever he makes a big fuss about something, he usually gets his way. We may look alike, but we're really not that similar. I'm a lot more patient than Josh is. A lot more sensible. Probably because I'm older and because I'm a girl. Josh had grabbed Dad's hand and was trying to pull him back to the car. Let's go, Dad. Come on. Let's go. I knew this was one time Josh wouldn't get his way. We were moving to this house, no doubt about it. After all, the house was absolutely free. There has to be a catch. You're just gonna... Well, I suppose in this economy you would take a free house, but goodness gracious. A great uncle of Dad's, a man we didn't even know had died and left the house to Dad in his will. I'll never forget the look on Dad's face when he got the letter from the lawyer. He let out a whoop and began dancing around the living room. Josh and I thought he'd flipped or something. My great-uncle Charles has left us the house in his will, Dad explained, reading and rereading the letter. It's in a town called Dark Falls. Huh? Josh and I cried. Where's Dark Falls? Dad shrugged. I don't remember your Uncle Charles, Mom said, moving behind Dad to read the letter over his shoulder. Neither do I, admitted Dad, but he must have been a great guy. Wow, this sounds like an incredible house. He grabbed Mom's hand and began dancing happily with her across the living room. Dad was sure excited. He'd been looking for an excuse to quit his boring job and devote all of his time to his writing career. This house, absolutely free, would be just the excuse he needed. And now, a week later, here we are in Dark Falls, a 4-hour drive from our home. Seeing our new house for the first time, we hadn't even gone inside, and Josh was trying to drag Dad back to the car. Josh, stop pulling me, Dad snapped impatiently, struggling to tug his hand out of Josh's grasp. Dad glanced helplessly at Mr. Dawes. I could see that he was embarrassed by how Josh was carrying on. I decided maybe I could help. Let go, Josh, I said quietly, grabbing him by the shoulder. We promised we'd give Dark Falls a chance, remember? I already gave it a chance, Josh whined, not letting go of Dad's hand. This house is old and ugly and I hate it. You haven't even gone inside, Dad said angrily. Yes, let's go in, Mr. Dawes urged, staring at Josh. I'm staying outside, Josh insisted. He can be really stubborn sometimes. I felt just as unhappy as Josh looking at this old dark house. But I'd never carry on the way Josh was. Josh, don't you want to pick out your own room? Mom asked. No, Josh muttered. He and I both glanced up at the second floor. There were 2 large baize windows side by side up there. They looked like 2 dark eyes staring back at us. How long have you lived in your present house? Mr. Dawes asked Dad. Dad had to think for a second. About 14 years, he answered. The kids have lived there for their whole lives. Moving is always hard, Mr. Dawes said sympathetically, turning his gaze on me. No, Amanda. I moved here to Dark Falls just a few months ago. I didn't much like it either at first, but now I wouldn't live anywhere else. He winked at me. He had a cute dimple in his chin when he smiled. Let's go inside. It's really quite nice. You'll be surprised. All of us followed Mr. Dawes except Josh. Are there other kids on this block? Josh demanded. He made it sound more like a challenge than a question. Mr. Dawes nodded. The school's just 2 blocks away, he said, pointing up the street. See, Mom quickly cut in. A short walk to school. No more long bus rides every morning. See? I liked the bus, Josh insisted. His mind was made up. He wasn't going to give my parents a break, even though we both promised to be open-minded about this move. I don't know what Josh thought he had to gain by being such a pain. I mean, Dad had already had plenty to worry about. For one thing, he hadn't been able to sell our old house yet. That's fine. I didn't like the idea of moving, but I knew that inheriting this big house was a great opportunity for us. We were so cramped in our little house, and once Dad managed to sell the old place, we wouldn't have to worry about money anymore. Josh said Josh should at least give it a chance. That's what I thought. Suddenly, from our car, at the foot of the driveway, we heard Petey barking and howling and making a fuss. Petey is our dog, a white, curly-haired terrier, cute as a button and usually well-behaved. He never minded being left in the car. But now... Oh, I lost my place. But now he was yowling and yapping at full volume and scratching at the car window, desperate to get out. Petey, quiet, quiet, I shouted. Petey usually listened to me, but not this time. I'm going to let him out, Josh declared, and took off down the driveway toward the car. No, wait, Dad called, but I don't think Josh could hear him over Petey's wails. Might as well let the dog explore, Mr. Dawes said. It's going to be his house, too. A few seconds later, Petey came charging across the lawn, kicking up brown leaves, yipping excitedly as he ran up to us. He jumped on all of us as if he hadn't seen us in weeks, and then, to our surprise, he started growling menacingly and barking at Mr. Dawes. Petey, stop, Mom yelled. He's never done this, Dad said apologetically. Really, he's usually very friendly. He probably smells something on me. Another dog, maybe, Mr. Dawes said, loosening his striped hide, looking warily at our growling dog. Finally, Josh grabbed Petey around the middle and lifted him away from Mr. Dawes. Stop it, Petey, Josh scolded, holding the dog up close to his face so they were nose to nose. Mr. Dawes is our friend. Petey whimpered and licked Josh's face. After a short while, Josh set him back down on the ground. Petey looked up at Mr. Dawes, then at me, then decided to go sniffing around the yard, letting his nose lead the way. Let's go inside, Mr. Dawes. Mr. Dawes urged, moving a hand through his short blonde hair. He unlocked the front door and pushed it open. Mr. Dawes held the screen door open for us. I started to follow my parents into the house. I'll stay out here with Petey, Josh insisted. From the lock. Dad started to protest, but changed his mind. Okay, fine, he said, sighing and shaking his head. I'm not going to argue with you. Don't come in. You can live outside if you want. He sounded really exasperated. I want to stay with Petey, Josh said again, watching Petey nose his way through the overgrown flower bed. Mr. Dawes followed us into the hallway, gently closing the screen door behind him, giving Josh a final glance. He'll be fine, he said softly, smiling at Mom. He can be so stubborn sometimes, Mom said apologetically. She peeked into the living room. I'm really sorry about Petey. I don't know what got into that dog. No problem. Let's start in the living room, Mr. Dawes said, leading the way. I think you'll be pleasantly surprised by how spacious it is. Of course, it needs work. He took us on tour of every room in the house. I was beginning to get excited. The house was kind of neat. There were so many rooms and so many closets, and my room was huge and had its own bathroom and an old-fashioned window seat where I could sit and look down at the street. I wish Josh had come inside with us. If he could see how great the house was inside, I knew he'd start to cheer up. I couldn't believe how many rooms there were. There was even a finished attic filled with old furniture and stacks of old mysterious cartons we could explore. We must have been inside for at least half an hour. I didn't really keep track of the time. I think all three of us were feeling cheered up. Well, I think I've shown you everything, Mr. Doss said, glancing at his watch. He led the way to the front door. Wait, I want to take one more look at my room, I told him excitedly. I started up the stairs, taking them two at a time. I'll be down in a second. Hurry, dear. I'm sure Mr. Dawes has other appointments, Mom called after me. I reached the second-floor landing and hurried down the narrow hallway and into my new room. Wow, I said aloud, and the word echoed faintly against the empty walls. It was so big, and I loved the bay window with the window seat. I walked over to it and peered out. Through the trees, I could see our car in the driveway, and beyond it, a house that looked a lot like ours across the street. Going to put my bed against that wall across from the window, I thought happily, and my desk can go over there, and I'll have room for a computer now. I took one look at my long walk-in closet, which had a light in the ceiling and wide shelves against the back wall. I was heading to the door, thinking about which of my posters I wanted to bring with me, and I saw the boy. He stood in the doorway for just a second, and then he turned and disappeared from the hall. Josh, I cried. Hey, come look. With a shock, I realized it wasn't Josh. For one thing, the boy had blonde hair. Hey, I called and ran to the hallway, stopping just outside my bedroom door, looking both ways. Who's there? But the long hall was empty. All the doors were closed. Whoa, Amanda, I said aloud. Was I seeing things? Mom and Dad were calling from downstairs. I took one last look down the dark corridor, then hurried to rejoin them. Hey, Mr. Dawes, I called as I ran down the stairs. Is this house haunted? He chuckled. The question seemed to strike him funny. No, sorry, he said, looking at me with those crinkly blue eyes. No ghosts included. A lot of old houses around here are said to be haunted, but I'm afraid that this isn't one of them. I thought I saw something, I said, feeling a little foolish. Probably just shadows, Mom said. With all the trees, this house is so dark. Why don't you run outside and tell Josh about the house, Dad suggested, tucking in the front of his shirt. Your mom and I have some things to talk over with Mr. Dawes. Yes, sir, I said with a little bow, and obediently ran out to tell Josh all about what he had missed. Hey, Josh, I called, eagerly searching the yard. Josh? My heart sank. Josh and Petey were gone. Chapter 2. Josh. First I called Josh, then I called Petey, but there was no sign of either of them. I ran down to the bottom of the driveway and peered into the car, but they weren't there. Mom and Dad were still inside talking with Mr. Dawes. I looked along the street in both directions, but there was no sight of them. Josh, hey Josh. Finally, Mom and Dad came hurrying out the front door looking alarmed. I guess they heard my shouts. I can't find Josh or Petey, I yelled up to them from the street. Maybe they're around back, Dad shouted at me. I headed up the driveway, kicking away dead leaves as I ran. It was sunny down on the street, but as soon as I entered our yard, I was back in the shade and it was immediately cool again. Hey Josh. Josh, where are you? Why did I feel so scared? It was perfectly natural for Josh to wander off. He did it all the time. I ran full speed along the side of the house. Tall trees leaned over the house on this side, blocking out nearly all of the sunlight. The backyard was bigger than I expected, a long rectangle that sloped gradually down a wooden fence at the back. Just like the front, this yard was a mess of tall weeds poking up through a thick covering of brown leaves. A stone bird bath toppled on its side. Beyond it, I could see the side of the garage, a dark brick building that matched the house. Hey, Josh. He wasn't back there. Oh, a pumpkin. Yes, I love pumpkins. I am a pumpkin eater. Hi, welcome in. I hope you're doing well. Where was I? He wasn't back there. I stopped and searched the ground for footprints or sign that he had run through the thick leaves. Well, out of breath, Dad came jogging up to me. No sign of him, I said, surprised at how worried I felt. Did you check the car? He sounded more angry than worried. Yes, it's the first place I looked. I gave the backyard a last quick search. I don't believe Josh would take off. I do, Dad said, rolling his eyes. You know your brother when he doesn't get his way. Maybe he wants us to think he's run away from home, he frowned. Where is he? Mom asked as we returned to the front door. Dad and I both shrugged. Maybe he made a friend and wandered off, Dad said. He raised a hand and scratched his curly brown hair. I could tell that he was starting to worry too. We've got to find him, Mom said, gazing down the street. He probably doesn't know this neighborhood at all. He probably wandered off and got lost. Mr. Dawes locked the front door and stepped down off the porch, pocketing the keys. He couldn't have gotten far, he said, giving Mom a reassuring smile. Let's drive around the block. I'm sure we'll find him. Mom shook her head and glanced nervously at Dad. I'll kill him, she muttered. Dad patted her on the shoulder. Mr. Dawes opened the trunk of the small Honda, pulled off his dark blazer and tossed it inside. Then he took out a wide-brimmed black cowboy hat and put it on his head. Hey, that's quite a hat, Dad said, climbing into the front passenger seat. Keeps the sun away, Mr. Dawes said, sliding behind the wheel and slamming the car door. Mom and I got in the back. Glancing over at her, I saw that Mom was as worried as I was. We headed down the block in silence, all four of us staring at the car windows. The houses we passed all seemed old. Most of them were even bigger than our house. All of them seemed to be in better condition, though, nicely painted with neat, well-trimmed lawns. I didn't see any people in the houses or yards, and there was no one on the street. It certainly is a quiet neighborhood, I thought, and shady. The houses all seemed to be surrounded by tall, leafy trees. The front yards we drove slowly past all seemed to be bathed in shade. The street was the only sunny place, a narrow gold ribbon that ran through the shadows on both sides. Maybe that's why it's called Dark Falls, I thought. Where is that son of mine? Dad asked, staring hard out of the windshield. I'll kill him. I really will, Mom muttered. It wasn't the first time she had said that about Josh. We had gone around the block twice. No sign of him. Mr. Dawes suggested we drive around the next few blocks, and Dad quickly agreed. Hope I don't get lost. I'm new here too, Mr. Dawes says, turning a corner. Hey, there's the school, he announced, pointing out the window at a tall red brick building. It looked very old-fashioned, with white columns on both sides of the double front doors. Of course, it's closed now, Mr. Dawes added. My eyes searched the fenced-in playground behind the school. It was empty, no one there. Could Josh have walked here? Mom asked, her voice tight and higher than usual. Josh doesn't walk, Dad said, rolling his eyes. He runs. We'll find him, Mr. Dawes said confidently, tapping his fingers in the wheel as he steered. We turned a corner onto another shady walk. A street sign read, Cemetery Drive, and sure enough, a large cemetery rose up in front of us. Granite gravestones rolled along a low hill that sloped down and then up again onto a large flat stretch, also marked with rows of low grave markers and monuments. A few shrubs dotted the cemetery, but there weren't many trees. As we drove slowly past, the gravestones passed by in a blur on the left. I realized that this was the sunniest spot that I had seen in the whole town. There's your son, Mr. Dawes said, pointing out the window, stopping the car suddenly. Oh, thank goodness, Mom exclaimed, leaning down to see out the window on my side of the car. Sure enough, there was Josh, running wildly along a crooked row of low white gravestones. What's he doing here? I asked, pushing open the car door. I got out of the car, took a few steps into the grass, and called to him. At first, he didn't react to my shouts. He seemed to be ducking and dodging through the tombstones. He would run in one direction, then cut to the side, then head in another direction. Why was he doing that? I took another few steps and then stopped, gripped with fear. I suddenly realized why Josh was darting and ducking like that. Running so wildly through the tombstone, he was being chased. Someone or something was after him. I have to make sure I eat after this because I'm really hungry. I hope you guys don't hear my stomach rumbling. Please make sure that you're staying hydrated as well. This one is definitely more of an eerie vibe compared to the other one. I think it's because instead of dealing with monsters, it's dealing with like ghosts and such. So I'm curious. Aito, are you sure? Are you sure you're not lying to me? But okay. I suppose I'll trust you. I need to make more pasta after this. I'm out of all of my pasta. Okay. Phew. I think I'm only gonna try to go to the hour, so it'll be 3 hours total. So I'll be reading for another half an hour, but I don't think I can do 4 hours, so I hope that's okay. We'll get pretty far into the book though. I think just because I'm pausing a lot less this time around. At least I hope so. I don't know, it could be a while. Okay. Chapter 3. Then, as I took a few reluctant steps towards Josh, watching him bend low, then change directions, his arms outstretched as he ran, I realized I had it completely backward. Josh wasn't being chased. Josh was chasing. He was chasing Petey. Okay. Just sometimes my imagination runs away with me. Running through an old graveyard like this, even in bright daylight, it's only natural that a person might start to have weird thoughts. I called to Josh again, and this time he heard me and turned around. He looked worried. "Amanda, come help me," he cried. "Josh, what's the matter?" I ran as fast as I could to catch up with him, but he kept darting through the gravestones, moving from row to row. "Help! Josh, what's wrong?" I turned and saw that Mom and Dad were right behind me. "It's Petey," Josh explained, out of breath. "I can't get him to stop. I caught him once, but he pulled away from me." "Petey, Petey!" Dad started calling the dog, but Petey was moving from stone to stone, sniffing each of them, then running to the next. "How did you get all the way over here?" Dad asked, as he caught up with my brother. "I had to follow Petey," Josh explained, still looking very worried. "He just took off. One second he was sniffing around the flower bed in our front yard. The next second he just started to run. He wouldn't stop when I called, wouldn't even look back. He kept running until he got here. I had to follow. I was afraid he'd get lost." Josh stopped and gratefully let Dad take over the chase. "I don't know what that dumb dog's problem is," he said to me. "He's just weird." It took Dad a few tries, but he finally managed to grab Petey and pick him up off the ground. Our little terrier gave a half-hearted yelp of protest, then allowed himself to be carried away. We all trooped back to the car on the side of the road. Mr. Dawes was waiting there. "Maybe you'd better get a leash for that dog," he said, looking very concerned. "Petey's never been on a leash," Josh protested, wearily climbing into the back seat. "Well, we might have to try one out for a while," Dad said quietly, "especially if he keeps running away." Dad tossed Petey into the back seat. The dog eagerly curled up in Josh's arms. The rest of us piled into the car, and Mr. Dawes drove us back to his office, a tiny, white, flat-roofed building at the end of a row of small offices. As we rode, I reached over and stroked the back of Petey's hand. Why did the dog run away like that, I wondered. Petey had never done that before. I guess that Petey was also upset about us moving. After all, Petey had spent his whole life in our house. He probably felt a lot like Josh and I did about having to pack up and move and never see the old neighborhood again. The new house, the new streets, and all the new smells must have freaked out the poor dog. Josh wanted to run away from the whole idea, and so did Petey. Anyway, that was my theory. Mr. Dawes parked the car in front of his tiny office, shook Dad's hand, and gave him a business card. "You can come by next week," he told Mom and Dad. "I'll have all the legal paperwork done by then. After you sign the papers, you can move in any time." He pushed open the car door and, giving us a final smile, prepared to climb out. "Compton Dawes?" Mom said, reading the white business card over Dad's shoulder. "That's an unusual name. Is Compton an old family name?" Mr. Dawes shook his head. "No," he said. "I'm the only Compton in my family. I have no idea where the name comes from. No idea at all. Maybe my parents didn't know how to spell Charlie." Chuckling at his terrible joke, he climbed out of the car, lowered the wide black Stetson hat on his head, pulled his blazer from the trunk, and disappeared into the small white building. Dad climbed behind the wheel, moving the seat back to make room for his big stomach. Mom got up front, and we started the long drive home. "I guess you and Petey had quite an adventure today," Mom said to Josh, rolling up her window because Dad had turned on the air conditioner. "I guess," Josh said without enthusiasm. Petey was sound asleep in his lap, snoring quietly. "You're going to love your room," I told Josh. "The whole house is great, really." Josh stared at me thoughtfully, but didn't answer. I poked him in the ribs with my elbow. Say something. Did you hear what I said? But the weird, thoughtful look didn't fade from Josh's face. The next couple of weeks crawled by. I walked around the house thinking about how I'd never see my room again, how I'd never eat breakfast in this kitchen again, how I'd never watch TV in the living room again. Morbid stuff like that. I had this sick feeling that when the movers came one afternoon and delivered a tall stack of cartons, time to pack up, it was really happening. Even though it was the middle of the day, I went up to my room and flopped onto my bed. I didn't nap or anything. I just stared at the ceiling for more than an hour, and all these wild, unconnected thoughts ran through my head like a dream. Only I was awake. I wasn't the only one who was nervous about the move. Mom and Dad were snapping at each other over nothing at all. One morning they had a big fight over whether the bacon was too crispy or not. In a way, it was funny to see them be so childish. Josh was acting really sullen all the time. He hardly spoke a word to anyone, and Petey sulked too. That dumb dog wouldn't even pick himself up and come over to me when I had table scraps for him. I guess the hardest part about moving away was saying goodbye to my friends. Carol and Amy were away at camp, so I had to write them. But Kathy was home, and she was my oldest and best friend, and the hardest to say goodbye to. I think some people were surprised that Kathy and I had stayed good friends. For one thing, we look so different. I'm tall and thin and dark, and she's fair-skinned with long blonde hair and a little chubby. But we've been friends since preschool, and best friends since 4th grade. I think when she came over the night before the move, we were both terribly awkward. Kathy, you shouldn't be nervous, I told her. You're not the one who's moving away forever. It's not like you're moving to China or something, she answered, chewing hard on her bubblegum. Dark Falls is only 4 hours away, Amanda. We'll see each other a lot. Yeah, I guess, I said, but I didn't believe it. 4 hours away was as bad as being in China as far as I was concerned. I guess we can still talk on the phone, I said glumly. She blew a small green bubble, then sucked it back into her mouth. Yeah, sure, she said, pretending to be enthusiastic. You're lucky, you know, moving out of this crummy neighborhood to a big house. It's not a crummy neighborhood, I insisted. I don't know why I was defending the neighborhood. I never had before. One of our favorite pastimes is thinking of all the places we'd rather be growing up. School won't be the same without you, she sighed, curling her legs under her on the chair. Who's going to slip me the answers in math? I laughed. I always slipped you the wrong answers. But it was a thought that counts, Kathy said. And then she groaned. Junior high. Is your new junior high part of the high school or part of the elementary school? I made a disgusted face. Everything's in one building. It's a small town, remember? There's no one separate high school. At least, I didn't see one. Bummer, she said. Bummer was right. We chatted for hours until Kathy's mom called and said it was time for her to come home. Then we hugged. I had made up my mind that I wouldn't cry, but I could feel the big hot tears forming in the corner of my eyes, and then they were running down my cheeks. I'm so miserable, I wailed. I'd planned to be really controlled and mature, but Kathy was my best friend after all, and what could I do? We made a promise that we'd always be together on our birthdays no matter what. We'd force our parents to make sure we didn't miss each other's birthdays. And then we hugged again, and Kathy said, Don't worry, we'll see each other a lot, really. And she had tears in her eyes too. She turned and ran out the door. The screen door slammed hard behind her. I stood there staring into the darkness until Petey came scampering in, his toenails clicking across the linoleum, and started to lick my hand. The next morning, moving day, was a rainy Saturday. Not a downpour, no thunder or lightning, but just enough rain and wind to make the long drive slow and unpleasant. The sky seemed to get darker as we neared the new neighborhood. The heavy trees bent low over the street. "Slow down, Jack," Mom warned shrilly. "The street is really slick." But Dad was in a hurry to get to the house before the moving van did. "They'll just put stuff anywhere if we're not here to supervise," he explained. Josh beside me in the back seat was being a real pain as usual. He kept complaining that he was thirsty. When he didn't get results, he started whining that he was starving. But we all had a big breakfast, so that didn't get a reaction either. He just wanted attention, of course. I kept trying to cheer him up by telling him how great the house was inside and how big his room was. He still hadn't seen it. But he didn't want to be cheered up. He started wrestling with Petey, getting the poor dog all worked up until Dad had to shout at him to stop. "Let's all try really hard not to get on each other's nerves," Mom suggested. Dad laughed. "Good idea, dear. Don't make fun of me," she snapped. They started to argue about who was more exhausted from all the packing. Petey stood up on his hind legs and started to howl at the back window. "Can't you shut him up?" Mom screamed. I pulled Petey down, but he struggled back up and started howling again. "He's never done this before," I said. "Just get him quiet," Mom insisted. I pulled Petey down by his hind legs, and Josh started to howl. Mom turned around and gave him a dirty look. Josh didn't stop howling, though. He thought it was a riot. "Hi, welcome in. Thank you so much for the follow. Welcome to the pumpkin patch." Finally, Dad pulled the car up the driveway of the new house. The tires crunched over the wet gravel. Rain pounded on the roof. "Home sweet home," Mom said. I couldn't tell if she was being sarcastic or not. I think she was just really glad the long car ride was over. "At least we beat the movers," Dad said, glancing at his watch. Then his expression changed. "Hope they're not lost." It's as dark as night out there," Josh complained. Petey was jumping up and down in my lap, desperate to get out of the car. He was usually a good traveler, but once the car stopped, he wanted out immediately. I opened my car door, and he leaped onto the driveway with a splash and started to run in a wild zigzag across the front yard. "At least someone's glad to be here," Josh said quietly. Dad ran up to the porch, fumbling with the unfamiliar keys, managed to get the front door open. Then he motioned for us to come into the house. Mom and Josh ran across the walk, eager to get in out of the rain to Dad. I closed the car door behind me and started to jog after them, but something caught my eye. Eager to see what it is, I stopped and looked up to the twin bay windows above the porch. I held a hand over my eyebrows to shield my eyes and squinted through the rain. Yes, I saw it. A face. In the window on the left. The same boy was up there, staring down at me. Chapter 4. "Wipe your feet. Don't track mud on the nice clean floors," Mom called. Her voice echoed against the bare walls of the empty living room. I stepped into the hallway. The house smelled of paint. The painters had just finished on Thursday. It was hot in the house, much hotter than outside. "The kitchen light won't go on," Dad called from the back. "Did the painters turn off the electricity or something?" "How should I know?" Mom shouted back. Their voices sounded so loud in the big, empty house. Mom, there's someone upstairs, I cried, wiping my feet on the new welcome mat and hurrying into the living room. She was at the window, staring out at the rain, looking for the movers probably. She spun around as I came in. What? There's a boy upstairs. I saw him in the window, I said, struggling to catch my breath. Josh entered the room from the back hallway. He'd probably been with Dad. He laughed. Is someone already living here? There's no one upstairs, Mom said, rolling her eyes. Are you two going to give me a break today, or what? What did I do? Josh whined. Listen, Amanda, we're all still a little on edge today, Mom started. But I interrupted her. I saw his face, Mom, in the window. I'm not crazy, you know. Says who? Josh cracked. Amanda, Mom bit her lower lip, the way she always did when she was exasperated. You saw a reflection of something, of a tree probably. She turned back to the window. The rain was coming down in sheets now, the wind driving noisily against a large picture window. I ran to the stairway, cupped my hands over my mouth, and shouted up to the second floor. Who's up there? No answer. Who's up there? I called a little louder. Mom had her hands over her ears. Amanda, please. Josh had disappeared into the dining room. He was finally exploring the house. Hi there. Thank you so much for the follow. Welcome to the pumpkin patch. There's something up there, I insisted, and impulsively I started up the wooden stairway, my sneakers thudding loudly on the bare steps. Amanda, I heard Mom call after me, but I was too angry to stop. Why didn't she believe me? Why did she have to say it was a reflection of a tree I saw up there? I was curious. I had to know who was upstairs. I had to prove Mom wrong. I had to show her I hadn't seen a stupid reflection. I guess I can be pretty stubborn too. Maybe it's a family trait? The stairs squeaked and creaked under me as I climbed. I didn't feel at all scared until I reached the second floor landing. Then I suddenly had this heavy feeling in the pit of my stomach. I stopped, breathing hard, leaning on the banister. Who could it be? A burglar? A bored neighborhood kid who had broken into an empty house for a thrill? Maybe I shouldn't be up here alone. I realized maybe the boy in the window was dangerous. Anybody up here? I called, my voice suddenly trembly and weak. Still leaning against the banister, I listened. I could hear footsteps scampering across the hallway. No, not footsteps. The rain. That's what it was. The patter of rain against the slate-shingled roof. For some reason, the sound made me feel a little calmer. I let go of the banister and stepped into the long, narrow hallway. It was dark up here, except for a rectangle of gray light from a small window at the other end. I took a few steps, the wooden floorboards creaking noisily beneath me. Anybody up here? Again, no answer. I stepped up to the first doorway on my left. The door was closed. The smell of fresh paint was suffocating. There was a light switch on the wall near the door. Maybe it's for the hall light, I thought. I clicked it on, but nothing happened. Anybody here? My hand was trembling as I grabbed the doorknob. It felt warm in my hand, and damp. I turned it, and taking a deep breath, pushed open the door. I peered into the room. Gray light filtered in through the bay window. A flash of lightning made me jump back. The thunder that followed was a dull, distant roar. Slowly, carefully, I took a step into the room, then another. No sign of anyone. There was a guest bedroom, or it could be Josh's room if he decided he liked it. Another flash of lightning. The sky seemed to be darkening. It was pitch black out there, even though it was just after lunchtime. I backed into the hallway. The next room down was going to be mine. It also had a bay window that looked down in the front yard. Was the boy I saw staring down at me in my room? I crept down the hall, letting my hand run across the wall for some reason, and stopped outside the door, which was also closed. Taking a deep breath, I knocked on the door. "Who's in there?" I called. I listened. Silence. Then a clap of thunder, closer than the last. I froze as if I were paralyzed, holding my breath. It was so hot up here, hot and damp. And the smell of paint was making me dizzy. I grabbed the doorknob. "Anybody in there?" I started to turn the doorknob when the boy crept up from behind and grabbed my shoulder. Ooh, spooky. I'm liking this story so far. It has like a traditional horror feel to it, which I really like. You all know how I like horror. So, I hope you're all enjoying it as well. I think I'm liking this a lot better than the last book. The last book was really fun though. But I'm looking forward to see how this one ends, since the last one ended fairly wild. So I'm curious how this one's gonna end. Comfy, thank you. I hope you're feeling comfy. I'm feeling comfy. But reminding you why these books got so popular. I haven't personally read all of them, but I understand why they got super popular. Feels like those old black and white horror movies. Yeah, they do. I like how every chapter seems to be like a little short horror story, because it seems to end when something drastic happens. And I think it's meant to encourage people to continue to read. So, which is a good tactic, but it's also very fun for people who aren't really big readers. So if a child picks up this book, for instance, they're gonna want to read a bunch of it. Hero, hello, darling girl. Hi, hey. I hope you're doing well. Thank you for stopping by, popping in during your lunch. I hope you have a good lunch. I hope work is going well for you. Make sure you're also staying hydrated as well. Okay. But I really am enjoying this story so far. And I like the last book as well. Don't get me wrong, but I'm really liking this book. So let's hope it stays this kind of classic horror for a bit. Because I do love a good classic horror. Okay. Chapter 5. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't cry out. My heart seemed to stop. My chest felt as if it were about to explode. With a desperate, terrified effort, I spun around. "Josh!" I shrieked. "You scared me to death." I thought. He let go of me and took a step back. "Gotcha," he declared, and then started to laugh, a high-pitched laugh that echoed down the long, bare hallway. My heart was pounding now. My forehead throbbed. You're not funny, I said angrily. I shoved him against the wall. You really scared me. He laughed and rolled around the floor. He's a real sicko. I tried to shove him again, but missed. Angrily, I turned away from him just in time to see my bedroom door slowly swinging open. I gasped in disbelief and froze, gaping at the moving door. Josh stopped laughing and stood up, immediately serious, his dark eyes wide with fright. I could hear someone moving inside the room. I could hear whispering, excited giggles. Who's there? I managed to stammer in a high little voice I didn't recognize. The door, creaking loudly, opened a bit more, and then started to close. Who's there? I demanded, a bit more forcefully. Again, I could hear whispering, someone moving about. Josh had backed up against the wall and was edging toward the stairs. He had an expression on his face I'd never seen before. Sheer terror. The door creaking like a door in a movie haunted house. Closed a little more. Josh was nearly at the stairway. He was staring at me, violently motioning with his hand for me to follow. But instead, I stepped forward, grabbing the doorknob, and pushed the door open hard. It didn't resist. I let go of the doorknob and stood blocking the doorway. Who's there? The room was empty. Thunder crashed. It took me a few seconds to realize what was making the door move. The window on the opposite wall had been left open several inches. The gusting wind through the open window must have been opening and closing the door. I guess that also explains the other sounds I heard inside the room. The sounds I thought were whispers. Who had left the window open? The painters, probably. I took a deep breath and let it out slowly, waiting for my pounding heart to settle down to normal. Feeling a little foolish, I walked quickly to the window and pushed it shut. Amanda? Are you alright? Josh whispered from the hallway. I had started to answer him, but then I had a better idea. He had practically scared me to death a few minutes before. Why not give him a little scare? He deserved it, so I didn't answer him. I could hear him take a few timid steps closer to my room. Amanda? Amanda, you okay? I tiptoed over to my closet, pulled the door open a third of the way, then I lay down flat on the floor on my back, with my head and shoulders hidden inside the closet and the rest of me out in the room. Amanda? Josh sounded very scared. Ooh. I moaned loudly. I knew when he saw me sprawled out on the floor like this, he'd totally freak out. Amanda, what's happening? What was that? He was in the doorway now. He'd see me any second now, lying in the dark room, my head hidden from view, the lightning flashing impressively, and the thunder cracking outside the old window. I took a deep breath and held it to keep from giggling. Amanda, he whispered, and then he must have seen me, because he uttered a loud, huh? And I heard him gasp, and then he screamed at the top of his lungs. I heard him running down this hall to the stairway, shrieking, Mom, Dad, and I heard his sneakers thudding down the wooden stairs, with him screaming and calling all the way down. I snickered to myself. Then, before I could pull myself up, I felt a rough, warm tongue licking my face. Petey! He was licking my cheeks, licking my eyelids, licking me frantically, as if he were trying to revive me. Or as if to let me know that everything was okay. Oh, Petey, Petey, I cried, laughing and throwing my arms around the sweet dog. Stop, you're getting me all sticky. But he wouldn't stop. He kept licking me fiercely. The poor dog is nervous too, I thought. Come on, Petey, shape up, I told him, holding his panting face away with both of my hands. There's nothing to be nervous about. This new place is going to be fun. You'll see. Okay. One more chapter? Yes, let's do one more chapter. Chapter 6. That night, I was smiling to myself as I fluffed up my pillow and slid into bed. I was thinking about how terrified Josh had been that afternoon, how frightened he looked even after I came prancing down the stairs perfectly okay, how angry he had been. Excuse me, hang on. How angry he was that I had fooled him. Of course, Mom and Dad didn't think it was funny. They were both nervous and upset because the moving van had just arrived an hour late. They forced Josh and me to call a truce. No more scaring each other. It's hard not to get scared in this creepy old house, Josh muttered, but we reluctantly agreed not to play any more jokes on each other if we could possibly help it. The men, complaining about the rain, started carrying in all of our furniture. Josh and I helped them show where we wanted stuff in our rooms. They dropped my dresser on the stairs, but it only got a small scratch. The furniture looked strange and small compared to the big house. Josh and I tried to stay out of the way, while Mom and Dad worked all day, arranging things, emptying cartons, putting clothes away. Mom even managed to get the curtains hung in my room. What a day! Now a little after 10 o'clock, trying to get sleep for the first time in my new room, I turned onto my side, then onto my back. Even though this was my old bed, I couldn't get comfortable. Everything seemed so different, so wrong. The bed didn't face the same direction as in my old bedroom. The walls were bare. I hadn't had any time to hang any of my posters. The room seemed so large and empty. The shadows seemed so much darker. My back started to itch, and then I suddenly felt itchy all over. The bed is filled with bugs, I thought, sitting up. But of course, that was ridiculous. It was my same old bed with clean sheets. I forced myself to settle back down and close my eyes. Sometimes when I can't get to sleep, I count silently by twos, picturing each number in my mind as I think it. It usually helps me to clear my mind so I can drift off to sleep. I tried to picture it now, burying my face in the pillow, picturing the numbers rolling back. 4, 6, 8. I yawned loudly, still wide awake at 22. I'm going to be awake forever, I thought. I'm never going to be able to sleep in this new room. But then I must have drifted off without realizing it. I don't know how long I slept. An hour or two at most. It was a light, uncomfortable sleep. Then something woke me. I sat straight up, startled. Despite the heat of the room, I felt cold all over. Looking down at the end of the bed, I saw that I kicked off the sheet and light blanket. With a groan, I reached down for them, but then froze. I heard whispers. Someone was whispering across the room to me. Who's there? My voice was a whisper, tiny and frightened. I grabbed my covers and pulled them up to my chin. I heard more whispers. The room came into focus as my eyes adjusted to the dim light. The curtains, The long sheer curtains from my old room that my mother had hung that afternoon were fluttering at the window. So that explains the whispers. The billowing curtains must have woken me up. A soft gray light floated in from outside. The curtains cast moving shadows onto the foot of my bed. Yawning, I stretched and climbed out of bed. I felt chilled all over as I crept across the wooden floor to close the window. As I came near, the curtains stopped billowing and floated back into place. I pushed them aside and reached out to close the window. Oh! I uttered a soft cry when I realized that the window was closed. But how could the curtains flutter like that with the windows closed? I stood there for a while, staring out at the grays of the night. There wasn't much of a draft. The window seemed pretty airtight. Had I imagined the curtains billowing? Were my eyes playing tricks on me? I hurried back through the strange shadows to my bed and pulled the covers up as high as they would go. Amanda, stop scaring yourself, I scolded, and I fell back to sleep. A few minutes later, I had the ugliest, most terrifying dream. I dreamed that we were all dead. Mom, Dad, Josh, and me. At first, I saw us sitting down around the dinner table in the new dining room. The room was very bright. So bright, I couldn't see our faces very well. They were just a bright white blur. But then slowly, everything came into focus, and I could see that beneath our hair, we had no faces. Our skin was gone, and only our gray-green skulls were left. Bits of flesh hanging from our bony cheeks. There were only deep, black sockets where my eyes had been. The four of us, all dead, sat eating in silence. Our dinner plates, I saw, were filled with small bones. A big platter in the center of the table was piled high with gray-green bones. Human-looking bones. And then, in the stream, our disgusting meal was interrupted by a loud knocking on the door, an insistent pounding that grew louder and louder. It was Kathy, my friend from back home. I could see her at our front door, pounding on it with both fists. I wanted to go answer the door. I wanted to run from the dining room and pull open the door and greet Kathy. I wanted to talk to Kathy. I wanted to tell her what had happened to me, to explain that I was dead and that my face had fallen away. I wanted to see Kathy so badly, but I couldn't get up from the table. I tried and I tried, but I couldn't get up. The pounding on the door grew louder and louder until it was deafening. But I just sat there with my gruesome family, picking up bones from my dinner plate and eating them. I woke up with a start. The horror of the dream was still with me. I could still hear the pounding in my ears. I shook my head, trying to chase the dream away. It was morning. I could tell from the blue of the sky outside the window. Oh no. The curtains. They were billowing again, flapping noisily as they blew into the room. I sat up and stared. The window was still closed. That is where we are going to be leaving off for today. I am really liking how this story is progressing. I really like the visuals. I really like the visuals and just it really gives like a classic horror feel that I very much appreciate and very much love. Hero, I don't know if you're still here, but I hope you have a good rest of your day. But I think that this is where I'm going to stop now for the night. I might be back with this next week, or I might be reading some Doki Doki Literature Club side stories. So there's not going to be a lot of very startling sound effects or extreme jumps or anything. It's just mostly going to be reading, and I'm not going to be doing voices or anything as well. It is mostly just going to be me reading through it. So this one feels more like a proper horror story. Yes, I agree. It's very nice to go back to the basics every now and then. I really like it. I really like it. You have the distant relative with the big house, starting to see things and hear things. Parents are not believing them. It is textbook horror, and I'm having a great time with it. But yeah, this has been a fun time. I'm really glad we were able to finish off the pumpkin recipes today and get started on a new book. I do think we should be able to finish it next time we pick it up, but again, I'm not sure if I'm going to be doing it next week or the week after. We'll see how I feel. If I want something a little bit more horror focused, or if I just want to kind of talk at you all and read through some side stories of Doki Doki Literature Club. But yeah, that's all I have for you guys today. I hope you had a great time. I hope you feel comfy and ready to take on the weekend. I hope I was able to help you relax and such. Okay. Let me go ahead and switch to my ending screen so I can say my goodbyes properly. Okie dokie, artichoke. I want to thank you all again for being here with me, especially because I know a lot of you are not typically consuming my ASMR content, but rather my gaming content, so I appreciate that you're here for all of it. If you are, to anyone who is new who came in from the raid, or any new followers, welcome. I hope you continue to enjoy your stay here, and yeah. With that, that is all for today with Mimzy May. Come back to the pumpkin patch soon, okay? I hope you all have a good weekend. I will see you all back on Sunday at 12 p.m. PST for some puzzling with a little to the left Seeing Stars DLC. And I will get my schedule up to you all as soon as I can. But, yeah. And so, make sure to be drinking water, eating, getting movement in, and being kind to yourselves. Have a good rest of your time, soon, everyone. Bye-bye. Janet.